Hello Pipe community, Barepipe here. It's time to tell you about the second half of this GBD Billiard restoration. But before I get into it, I want to tell you a little bit about what I've discovered about this particular pipe, and it is actually kind of special. It's a GBD new standard. It has the metal logo on the stem that tells you it's from the Oppenheimer era before 1980, but I didn't know anything else about this pipe. Well, then I weighed it, and I discovered that it weighs only 26 grams. That is about 7/8 of an ounce. Very, very light. It's about half what a normal pipe would weigh. And that kind of clued me into the fact that maybe there's something special about this pipe. And then I discovered a photograph of this particular pipe in a catalog from 1950 from Oppenheimer. And in that, they note this pipe as part of what they call the light wing series of new standard pipes, was an especially light, especially low weight pipe that was developed and sold for I don't know how many years. So it doesn't mean this pipe is from 1950, it just means that that particular model was available in 1950, and this is one of those models. I still cannot date this pipe accurately or any closer than that. But that makes it somewhat of a unique pipe. Now, what did I need to do? There are two things that was left to do. One is I needed to steam out all those little dents that I showed you in the previous episode, and I'm going to show you how I do that. And then secondly, I wanted to take another run at the yellow stain. You will, if you've watched my previous GBD restoration, the tricolor one, you'll know that I ran into some trouble with the yellow stain and couldn't make it work quite the way that I wanted to. And I decided to take another run at it, try something that's a little more subtle, and actually this time it worked quite well. So I'm going to show you that as well. So without any further ado, let's get into the work that was done on this. I'm getting ready to steam the pipe now, and what I've done is I've put some damp paper towels around the bowl for a few minutes just to get some moisture to soak in. And I'm not doing it around the areas where we have logos. And there's a reason for that, because I've noticed the last few times that I've worked on pipes, when you do a lot of work with water on a pipe stummel, it has a tendency to swell the fibers, which is of course what we want, and that's why we steam it to get rid of the dents. But I've noticed what it does is also swells up the fibers in the logo and actually starts reducing the depth of the logo. So I'm deliberately not making this area wet in order to avoid that, but I'm keeping the area where I want to steam it nice and damp, and you can see there how dark it is. That's exactly the way I want it. And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to dip some water in here. I'm going to stick it on there and use the iron and start to steam this. The iron is said not to be steaming itself, so it's just the steam from the water, and no particular reason for that other than the fact that I don't want to burn my hands with steam. And I keep it there for a few minutes until it stops sizzling. And oh wow, already that's quite a bit better than it was. Let's do the next little bit over. To let it kind of rest now and just stabilize before you continue to sand it, because it will ever so slightly change as it dries out and settles down. And areas that you may think need sanding now, you may discover once it's all dry and settled, it doesn't need it, because the wood continues to swell and change a little bit as it settles down. Make this nice and wet. Like that, and we'll give it a quick flash. Just to make sure that it's nice and, there we go, it's nice and warm. I'm not running this one as deeply as I did the previous GBD. I want this to be a fairly light coat because I don't want to do a lot of sanding on this. So I'm not putting it on very heavily. And the hope is that when I sand it back down, it will turn into something more of a brownish kind of color. In fact, it's already dry. And now we're going to wipe off the excess. Just with some pure I'm just going to take that off now. So I'm going to do the yellow, but I'm going to put a tiny bit of light brown in it. I got to get the hang of this yellow stain, so at some point I got to figure out how to make this work. See, that was just a few drops, and let's just mix it in and see what it does. I think that's too much already. I need more yellow. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to split this up. And I'm going to, actually I'm going to take it even more out, like that. Yeah. Just trying to get away from the really bright yellow. That's so typical of yellow stains. Yeah, that's a bit better. Okay, now I'm going to dilute it a little bit with some alcohol. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, here it is before I'm buffing it. It looks kind of muddy and ugly right now, but I think once it's buffed up, it could be quite an interesting look. And it's an experiment after all. If I don't like it, well, then we change it. So let's see what happens. Well, folks, here it is. It's all finished. And that's what it looks like. Let me know what you think. I think, as far as I'm concerned, if you do the yellow more subtly like this, it actually works out quite nicely. It has a kind of a chocolatey brown and a kind of a light kind of caramel color to it, which, yeah, I quite like it. So I think this came out really beautifully. I'm happy with it. But let me know what you think, and if you think that the color doesn't work, let me know. I'd like to hear from you. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. Until next time.